All right, thanks again for staying with me on the show, TMI Monday. We have in the studio the Executive Director, Foundation for Good Governance and Social Change, the one and only erudite Comrade Austin Osakwe. Comrade, it's been a while. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, good to have you here today.
Good to be back.
Okay, so much to talk about, but I think what is most worrisome is the fact that before an election comes, there's always this talk about the need for national rebirth, the need to change the narratives, the need to set up a structure that will change the course of the country. How feasible is that? How realistic is that? Against the background that every time we've had the opportunity of changing these so-called narratives, it doesn't really turn out well. It just looks like we make some 2 steps forward, 20 steps backward.
Well, in the Nigerian case is one that has bemused even the best of solution finders and providers across the globe. The reason is that whereas we seem to understand what the issues are, we seem to understand what the problem is, but the willingness, the sincerity to proffer solutions and actually stick to them appears to be the bane of our development. And I'll tell you this. Like you said, every election cycle raises these fundamental issues. And there seems to be a consensus that we can't continue in the direction we've been going. We've got to do things differently. But there are 2 factors that I think have militated against the search for success in this area. The first is the level of sincerity of those who profess changes. It would appear now that in the political landscape of Nigeria, people have adopted philosophies, principles, doctrines, and they sermonize and proselytize with these. So it is the saying that we have become used to. The doing has been a problem. We have scored 0 at the level of the doing. The second problem is that we tend to believe that those who come in the public space and say we are going to do this and do that, we are going to fix things, we think it's their problem. And that needs to change. It takes, look, I'll tell you what a leader does. A leader is not a magician. Those who seek to lead don't do so because they feel they are magicians. They want to lead a process. They want to lead a people. So what this means is that for there to be development, the leader is expected to cast a vision. The vision must be very clear. The vision must be unadulterated. The vision must situate where we are, where we want to go, and how we want to go there. That's what leadership does. After that, the leader strives to mobilize and galvanize the people to embrace that vision and work together with leadership for the attainment of that vision. But what has happened over time is that while leaders are saying theirs, the people tend to have a different idea as to where they want to go and what they want to do. So until there is this consensus addendum between leadership and followership, we are wasting our time. How many of those philosophies proffered by leaders do the people believe in? What is the level of consultation? What's the level of mobilization of the people? Look, the countries we are talking about, they have a philosophy. And somehow, both the leadership and the led don't need to be convinced about that philosophy. No matter how bad the economy of the United States is, The moment the leadership identifies a place where they need to wage war, the American public embraces it and supports leadership. In fact, in the US, when the economy nosedives and public opinion is very low, the moment the leader identifies an enemy somewhere and needs to deploy military power, the opinion of people begins to rise. The people begin to embrace that leadership. The reason is this. There is a national consensus that the first thing America should do is protect America and protect the world. So that they are the policeman of the world. The American populace are keyed into that, and nobody can take it away. That's a national philosophy. What is Nigeria's national philosophy? We're all working at cross purposes. There are people in this country who believe that we should be done with the presidential system. We need to go to the parliamentary system. Look at the idea of even the simple restructuring we are talking about. If you put 15 people in this studio, you are likely to have as many as 15 different modes of
restructuring.
We're talking about deregulation of the oil sector. Why some see it as increase in fuel price, others see it as removal of subsidy. Where is the meeting point? So as 2023 becomes imminent, I am scared. I try to be as optimistic as possible. But when you have things that breed cynicism and skepticism, it becomes very difficult to remain an optimist.
What are those things?
All right. 2023 stares us in the face. Everything I see points to a lack of consultation. Everything I see points to a divide, a gulf between those who want to lead and the people themselves. But far and beyond that is that thing that has always put paid to our effort to get it right politically and therefore economically are still there. We haven't solved them. And I'm going to talk about a few of them. Number one is this. Nigerians deceive themselves so much, especially at one level. Do you know that several groups are springing up now on their own and are calling on certain personalities to come and contest election? Please take a look at these groups. Which one is not calling for a multi-billionaire?
None.
Which one is asking for somebody who may not have the millions, but over time has proven to have the capacity to provide solutions and has the character to implement? Is there anyone? There's hardly anyone. So what happens is that we have called on these billionaires because we want to have a share of the money supposedly
accumulated over the years.
Over time. So it's a merry-go-round. We will start the process, there will be campaigns, and then we are asking them to bring money. So they spend billions. And we believe somehow that after we have collected these billions, these same people will turn around and begin to fix roads and fix health centers and fix schools. Who is deceiving who, for God's sake? Where does it even make sense that you have called on somebody to come and spend money to acquire power, and he says he's going to serve you, and you believe he has spent all these billions? Is it morally justifiable for you to call on that person to come and provide solutions to developmental problems? When you made it clear from the beginning, the only thing that is absent is that we have not come to make offer acceptance and then we enter into a contract. But every other thing points to the fact that there's an agreement that you give us now because we may not see you later for the next 4 years. And then in the same vein, we're asking them, you know, it beats my mind. We are saying government didn't do this, government didn't do that, government has refused to do this. Which government are you talking about? The one that came to power buying votes? Is that the one you are calling upon? So as 2023 approaches, what kind of mobilization should we see? What kind of thinking, what kind of resetting of our mindset, what kind of reorientation should we be having? And for me is that different groups within the nation, especially among young people, among women, they need to now begin to reset the agenda. And what is that agenda? That the recruitment process, we must get it right. That number two, we will identify those who can fix our problems at all levels.
Okay.
Whether it's local government, state, federal. We need to identify those who can solve our problem and bring of our own resources
to support them.
To support them. Not asking them to come and spend the money. We have gotten to a stage in this country where we should be able to tell any political party that defers to money bags as a basis for bringing them up to be candidates. So they just know ab initio that we are going to reject them. When we talk of, they talk of PDP and APC as the two major political parties. What makes them major? I am interested in knowing the membership strength of the APC, the membership strength of the PDP. I'm interested. I want to know the ratio between this membership and the total voting population. What makes a party strong in Nigeria is simply because they have money bags who are willing to spend money to run campaigns. That's the only thing. Otherwise, if it is membership, the people can decide to pick a party that does not have up to 100 members and move in and populate it, and it becomes the number one political party. But there are divisions among the people that will prevent them to arrive at this conclusion. Number one is that, you know, there was a time we had NROC, we had SDP. Whereas it was National Republican Convention. People started calling it Northern Republican Convention. And the SDP, which was Social Democratic Party, was being called Southern Democratic Party. So as long as you have these ethnic divisions, we defer to ethnic considerations. Those mundane considerations, there can never be a collective. There can't be an agreement on the part of the people who are at the receiving end of failures in governance and development.
Okay, let me just quickly key you into the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. National Assembly rescinded its decision last week, but the INEC is saying they won't release timetable unless the Electoral Bill becomes a law, is assented to by Mr. President. What are your thoughts?
I think that this INEC encourages me. This present INEC gives me some hope. This is a body of people appointed by the government in power. But they appear to be very progressive-minded. They appear to be more interested in broadening the space of political participation. They appear, even more importantly, to be ready to set parameters that will move us away from the crude electoral process and procedures that we have had to join the Committee of Nations, albeit gradual, but consistent. What were the issues about the Electoral Bill Amendment Bill? It centers around the need to increase political participation, to get the people more involved. And so they talked about, mode of primaries. They talked about transmission, the mode of transmission of results electronically, directly from the polling station. For the first time, perhaps, I was heavily involved in the last elections at the state level here. And I know that one of the most fundamental determinants of the results of that election is the fact that at the polling booth, at the voting unit, everybody knew what the results were, and they were transmitted, and people were ready to compare what they had with the one that came from collation center. Because the reason why politicians over time have told the people to go to blazes is the fact that they know that no matter how it is done, they are waiting somewhere at a point called the collation center, whether medium or final, to tinker with what has come from the state, the voting units. So INEC said, look, we must have this. To that extent, this INEC needs to be celebrated. I know, and I hope that they can stand their ground. But coming back to the reality of the amendment bill, you see, it is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's a work in progress, an ongoing thing. I was very shaken by the president's initial response. Not because he refused to assent to that bill, but because he waited till the very last minute. Look, let's stop grandstanding. Like I said, nobody is a Superman. You are president today because the people gave you their opportunity. You must humble yourself to relate to the people. And the people right now have their representatives in the National Assembly. Whether they consulted us or not, perhaps our feelings touched them and they put that in place and sent to the president. The president has some time. I would have thought that within the first 1 week, the president looks at it, makes up his mind, and makes it known that for him, this is an impediment. The manner in which we have reduced governance to something akin to witchcraft, I don't understand it. We are doing governance as if it's one big deal. It's not rocket science. Governance actually is a process that involves leaders and the led working together to provide dividends for the people. That's what governance is. All the processes in governance are the ones that call for participatory democracy. So you hide the bill and wait until the last minute, and then the whole world is now talking about it, and you send a test message, very terse, to say because of this. But we have passed that stage now. What the National Assembly has done in reversing itself on the issue of direct primaries is commendable. The reason is this. Take your mind back to the struggle over third term of the Obasanjo administration. There were very great things that were part of that process. But because of the presence of what looked like a procedure to get a third term, we threw all of those things away. One of those beautiful things was a single term of 5 years, which we saw take us away from a lot of these problems. So this time around, instead of throwing away the electoral bill, take away the one the president says is offensive. And let's focus on this electronic transmission. I am hoping that the president will not find another reason to discard this. But it's a step in the right direction. In any case, were we ready for direct primaries? If you ask my opinion, we are not. As beautiful as it seems, as progressive as it seems, we are not ready for direct primary. My opinion is that political parties in Nigeria have become one of the biggest problems facing the Nigerian people. Political parties are not opened up. They are run like secret societies. Political parties have not put in place structures that will present them as modern-day platforms for mobilizing the people for governance. I say this because how many parties have updated registers? What is the entry and exit mode of political parties? How many political parties can come out to say, even within them, they have trained enough people to manage a direct primary process that will be free of altercation? It's hardly there. So let's get electronic transmission of results now. We hold that one and move on. And then we begin to engage the political parties to put in place the kind of structures that will ensure that when we say direct primaries, they actually are direct primaries, not excuses for violence and altercation.
There's also a plan by INEC to monitor funding of the electoral process. How feasible is this within the context of how our elections have been executed over the years?
I think that's a tall order. In Nigeria, when you talk about monitoring finances, you fail ab initio. Which part of the funding are you going to monitor? Let's not just rehash what other countries are saying or doing, because they are different environments. The Nigeria's political ecosystem is perhaps unique to us. Now, you can say political parties have fixed an amount to purchase form. That's in the public domain. Okay? The moment you do that, some market women gather somewhere and say, we are buying form for our candidates. So how do you monitor that that's the reality? Then when you go beyond that, the actual prosecution of the campaigns, how do you monitor that? How do you know who does what? So the political party says, INEC says we are to spend this limit, perhaps 5 billion. But who says sympathizers of the political party cannot bring money to spend? Are you monitoring those ones too? And how do you know who is funding what? I think what we should be doing is to make it impossible for money to be the decider.
How possible is that?
Over time, we can achieve that. And I'll tell you this. In the last election in Edo State, money was spent. So when I hear people say money was spent. What happened was that the degree of ensuring that money spent achieved results fell very drastically. We had reports of people who were, there were 3 categories. The category 1 was, go away, your money perish with you. There were some people there, few. There were those who say, these people will teach them a lesson, we'll collect that money, we won't vote for them. And we saw all that play out at the polling units. All right? So that category was there. There were those who said, give us money, we will go and vote for you. However, even that one was not as efficacious as it used to be. Because, if you recall, I was one of those who did that World Press Conference asking for INEC to ensure that cubicles, voting cubicles, were present at every voting unit. And they brought more cubicles. So you could go around and see that the structures for voting were present. The people who were to get accredited, we saw them. And most of the time, the open secret arrangement was respected. Even though in some other areas, crowds invaded the whole place. But to a large extent. So the person could collect money from you, assure you he would vote for you, and go ahead and vote for his choice. Yeah. If we continue in this regard, you just find that the money influence will begin to whittle down. But for INEC to think that, oh, controlling the funding, the source of funding, the spending and all that, no.
We're talking about changing the narratives. You spotted something a while ago that many of our young people, maybe women groups, are already routing for one person or the other. How do we galvanize this to be able to make a headway? Some time ago, we heard about the third force. It died even before it started.
I was part of that.
And recently again, some movement has started taking place. So how do we galvanize all of this to be able to chart the country in the direction it's supposed to go? And then secondly, how possible is it for us to get the right person to lead this country in the direction that the country ought to go, against the background of the current realities that the country is facing?
Yes, there are a few impediments. The ideal thing would be for different groups to get orientated and then begin to canvass for a change in attitude among the people. That would be the easiest thing. For instance, you have women groups led by women. You have youth groups. In fact, that's not in short supply. They are all over the place. But who are those leading these groups? And what is their motivation? You know, it's very easy to put people together here. You sell one idea to the majority of the people there, whereas you have a different agenda. When the time comes, they are talking about negotiation and all of that. So that's another problem. But there are two things for me. One is a measured and definite program of reorientation. All of these have to do with reorientation before poverty. But those are the two things I want to address. A reorientation that makes people to understand the implications of the decisions that they take. that decision you take concerning your vote has implications. People yet do not understand what those implications are. The present situation, you know, I used to shout a lot, don't collect money and go and vote and all that. But the reality goes against the grain. And this is the reality, sir. The argument is if you collect 5,000 naira now, you perhaps are throwing away the opportunity to benefit from a better healthcare, education, roads, security. That's a solid argument. But the individual you are making this argument to cannot see beyond today.
He's concerned about today.
It is today. The problems of today are sufficient, and you are stressing him to think about tomorrow. For him, the calculation is that 5,000 you are giving him now will provide soup for today. It's likely to provide medicaments for the children who have fever and all that. That 5,000 will take the person from today into tomorrow, and then the problems of tomorrow will solve them when we get there.
One day at a time.
So when you are telling such a person, oh, wait for the medical center that will come, the roads that will come, yes, it may understand what you are saying, but the long-term implications, it cannot afford to negotiate with you on that. So the 5,000 for today is important. The second thing is that we've got to a point in this country where we need to reconcile ourselves to the fact that there is poverty. The poverty is not really about resources. The poverty, look, there was a young man who was on this set before I came on.
Yeah.
When he was talking about certain things, they were so utopian to me. I was asking myself, is it realistic? You are not well. Maybe out of frustration, look, I don't want to get treatment. And government is sending people to come and beg me. Where? We are on the surface of this earth. So when he was, I said, what is this man talking about? The real poverty in Nigeria is that people are on their own. People are providing their own security. People are providing their own potable water. People are providing their own food. People are providing education for their children. People are providing health. People now also have to do their own roads year in, year out. So when the rains are coming, they do something about the road to survive the rainy season. This is the reality of the situation. So even if you are paying salaries and wages, the take-home pay of the individual worker cannot take them home. This is the real poverty that we are having. So when money is voted at the level of government to provide for the people, the money suddenly does a vanishing act into people's pockets. The little that is left may even be deployed to fighting the people. So we need to get the country to a proper understanding of the social contract theory. That government does not have its own money to come and work for you. The money government is going to use is the one which you pay as tax. Not oil money, because it's going to go anyway. It was deceit for people to tell us, don't bother, oil money is enough for us, how to spend it. No, we are no longer there. Now, when people pay tax, they obey rules and regulations, and they are willing to report criminals. People can now hold those in government responsible. They can hold them accountable. They can hold them to probity. But it starts from the understanding of the social contract, that we have a role to play and those in government have a role to play. Otherwise, the government will retain the resources for themselves, those in government, and use it the way they like. And then you continue to provide all the basic necessities that you like. So these are the impediments in the way of galvanizing women, youths, and all others to embrace genuine democracy towards picking somebody. And so when you ask the last question, can we get such a Nigerian now? My answer is, such Nigerians exist, but the present political structure in place, the present political system in place, will never allow us the opportunity of having that. What you have in several states, and time will allow us to name a few of them, there are several accidents that have happened, political accidents. Persons who should not even become governor, persons who should not become local government chairman, they came by accident. Some of them are working very well. But these are accidents, I call them. It is not the political system that threw them up. In fact, the problem they will have is that the political system sees them as outsiders and are willing to suffocate them. So the present political system cannot allow us to look at the names being touted now. And I'm looking at those names. I'm on air, so I'm not going to mention it, but you also know those people. Look at the names being touted as wanting to rule the country. And I'm asking myself, I thought they said we have over 250 million people.
And this is the best we can.
These are the best we can. So the only consideration we have is that this person has a war chest, a tidy war chest that he can deploy, and money will be flowing. Or this person, when they talk about clout in this country, it's all about finance. What is clout? What age demographics do these people appeal to? How many times have they conducted town hall meetings? How many times have they conducted seminars? How many times have they sponsored research into how governance can better be run in this country? They are recluses. They hide. We only see them on television or hear about them in the news. But when election is coming, they come out. And their foot soldiers are all over the place. Who are these foot soldiers? People who believe that it's another opportunity to make money from the political system.
Thank you very much, Comrade Austin Osakwe. It's always a delight to have you here and share some thoughts with us on the state of the nation and the need to change the narratives, the need for a national rebirth. One major question that has been coming forth is that, yes, power should move to the south. Yeah. Where in the south? Southeast, south-south, southwest. I've heard people say, well, there's a serious lobbying for former President Goodluck Jonathan to come back. And someone said, look, it was even a comedian who could just say, okay, it was just on the softer side. But some very serious points were made in that video. Mr. President, please don't come back. Things are so bad that it will rubbish whatever image records that you had. What are your thoughts?
I agree entirely. I talked about confusion. Even the brightest of minds, when they come to Nigeria, they're likely to get confused in less than 48 hours. Me, what I believe is that in Nigeria, we should not care where the president should come from. This is my belief. You see, what we are doing is that we are willing to sacrifice merit for anything, any consideration. If the person who can fix this country comes from the north, I will accept. If it comes from the south, I will accept. If it comes from the smallest minority, I will accept. That's me. However, the story does not end there. They say when you are in Rome, you behave like a Roman. Those who are asking for power shift are not stupid. They are also not less patriotic than others. The basis for power shift in this country is predicated on our history. There is nothing that is not zoned in this country. You see, education, the way people go get admission into school, there is zoning. You give it all kinds of names, federal character, place or whatever. Forget it.
The zoning.
Even employment into different. Haven't you heard? Some states have not had any federal appointments from those states because they say their quota is filled up. And they are packing from other places. And we are all in one Nigeria. The reason for asking for power shift is that once you have an agreement, you should be seen to honor the agreement. Whether written
or unwritten.
Whether spoken or unspoken. That's why they talk about gentleman's agreement. And if anybody is looking for proof of this agreement, go back to the 1993 botched election that Electoral Abiola won. May so rest in peace. The reason power was, in that election, no northerner of any means actually contested the election. So there was an unspoken understanding that, a southerner is deemed to have won. Not just a southerner, a westerner is deemed to have won this election. It was robbed. To pacify the people, let another westerner come. So that's how Obasanjo came. Obasanjo from the south did 8 years. and handed over to somebody from the north, the late Yaradua. Unfortunately, Yaradua didn't last long. He died. That's where our problem started. All of this interpretation about you did this number of years, we must complete this number of years, are all attempts to wriggle out of this agreement. The truth is this.
It exists.
It does exist. So if you say north-south, if the north has its tongue in General Muhammadu Buhari for 8 years, it should naturally, we shouldn't even be arguing it, it should come to the south. But that's where the problem begins. That's not where the answer is. Now that it is coming to the south, there are now arguments that, yes, you want it to come to the south. In the south, we have west, we have south-south, and we have east. There's a certain president, Goodluck Jonathan, who came from the south-south. So in the south right now, the west has taken its shot. The south-south has taken its shot.
Remaining the southeast.
We have the southeast. If we cannot agree to give it to southeast, let's leave it open for anybody from any part of the country to gun for. This is my position. Because you can't blow hot and cold. You can't be appropriating and reprobating. If we argue that it should come to the south, unless you can show to me one offense that the southeast has committed that makes us so suspicious of them, and that we are not willing to allow them come to the table and be part of this so-called feast, then let's leave it open. If it comes from the north, fine. If it comes from the south, fine. Wherever it's coming from. So the only condition in which I will agree for power to move to the south is that justice, equity must reign in the south itself. And acknowledging that because south-south has had a go, southwest has had a go, it's only natural and fair that the southeast should have a go. Are they prepared for it? I don't know. Some people have cited in the argument that when they were giving, the southeast was given an opportunity to provide a Senate president, and that within the space of 4 or 5 years, they produced 5. And I said, but that's part of democracy. We are not all the same. We all will arrive at our destination differently. If the southeast, if you go to their history, the southeasterners are perhaps the only true Republican ethnic setup in the entire Nigeria. If their own way is to fight among themselves and provide something, let them have a go. But this conspiratorial silence around which part of the South should provide it is not helping the South's argument.
All right, Comrade Austin Osakwe, thank you very much. If I have more time, probably would have loved to continue with this conversation, because I know, as usual, there's always a lot more from where all that we have put forward today came from. Comrade, thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
It's TMI. We'll take a short break. Prince Daniels will be here to talk with one of our clients who is here to showcase some stuff. Please stay with us on TMI.